Well, well, well. Welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. And I wish I could be more positive today. 1-1 draw against Everton. Everton down to 10 men, gifted us the penalty. Game was completely gift wrapped for us. Should have really won it, but in the end, a draw we would probably say is a lucky outcome. So that's what we're talking about today. So yeah, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to support it with a like. And as always, leave your comments below. So, on a night when Abdullah Doucouré loses his head, gets himself sent off, Harry Kane's second half penalty, which was struck beautifully. Then Lucas Moura sees red himself, and Michael Keane's long range effort, which it was a beauty by the way, secures the draw for Everton. So, let's talk about the game itself. I'm not going to go into details about things that happened throughout the game. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts. So, first half, I thought we played okay. Second half, we were dreadful. And that's pretty much all you need to know to sum up the game. I've watched a few videos already since the game because I didn't want to come out straight away because I wanted to see how much of a bashing Stellini was going to get and the players after this game. I didn't want to come on here because I wanted to get a general consensus of what Spurs fans' opinions were like after this game. And it seems to be a lot of people are going way over the top with certain things. There's a lot of blame going on Stellini and how Conte was right about all the players. There's a lot of criticism going on Lucas Moura for his reckless challenge, which yes was reckless, but I will talk about this myself and my views on why things happened the way they did. Talking about the substitutions that Stellini made, saying that they were wrong. I will explain why. Technically, they were the right substitutions, but just didn't have the desired effect. So if we have a look at the actual players in the squad for this evening. So our starting lineup, Hugo Lloris was welcomed back into goal for his first appearance in the first team since his injury. And then we had the back three. So Stellini kept the formation of Romero, Dyer and Longley. Then Porro and Perisic were the wing-backs with Skip and Højbjerg in the centre and a familiar front three of Kulu, Son and Kane. So if we look at the substitutes. On the bench, we had Davinson Sanchez, Danjuma, Fraser Forster, Tanganga, Lucas Moura, Pap Matassar, Brandon Austin, Alfie Devine and Mundell. Was on the bench, who's been training with the first team. So if you actually look at the bench, there wasn't too much to bring on to change the game once it had gone to 1-1. So let's talk about the substitutions that he actually made in the game. So on 77 minutes, Longley comes off and Sanchez comes on. Now, of the two available first team centre-backs that are there, Tanganga and Davinson Sanchez, the more experienced of the two is Davinson Sanchez, right? Clement Longley's on a yellow card. Romero's also on a yellow card, by the way. But that came after the substitution had been made. So Romero didn't receive his yellow card until the 79th minute. So Davinson Sanchez has actually been on for 2 minutes already. So at that stage of the game, you've already got Everton down to 10 men. Doucouré got sent off in the 58th minute. We scored the penalty in the 68th minute, which was well won by Romero. But in terms of that substitution, it actually made sense to not risk Clement Longley getting a red card. And of the two, Sanchez, I would say, is the more experienced out of him and Tanganga. And Tanganga has been worse than Sanchez when he's come on this season. So I understand the logic behind the substitution. It just didn't work. If we'd have had a fit Ben Davies, then I'm assuming it would have been him. I mean, he may have even started the game. So that actually made sense. Look, Davinson Sanchez is just not having a great season, hasn't had many minutes and looked very shaky. He looks like a guy that's not been playing. Then, Lucas Moura. So if you look at the front three at the time, Kulusevski, yes, who was trying with no end product. Harry Kane, you're not going to take him off. And Sonny, of the three, he had to be the one to go off. I thought he was dreadful. He's having a really bad season. I don't understand why he's still starting games, because the only time he's been any good this season is when he was dropped from the team and then came on to prove a point. But he's not been pulling his weight. So obviously you've got the curious case of Arnaut Danjuma. You'd think I'd put him on, especially after his pre-match conference or the presser during the week. He was basically saying that, he hinted that there'll be a bit more rotation than what we've been used to seeing with the running. Danjuma didn't come on. Lucas Moura, I have a feeling, because of the way the game was going and we were looking quite laboured, Lucas Moura is full of energy. I know he's not the best on the ball, gives it away a lot, but he hassles, he tackles, he puts himself about. So actually, logically, if we ignore the fact that he got sent off, right, of the two, in the situation we were currently in, he's the man you bring on. I also would have made the substitution and taken off Kulusevski and brought on Danjuma and Lucas Moura. That would have been the thing to do in that situation. They're both full of energy. Danjuma, however, does take quite a lot of risks on the ball. He loves doing these little flicks and backheel passes and stuff, which actually at that moment in the game, it wasn't called for. And I know a lot of Spurs fans were calling for Danjuma, but if you haven't actually watched a lot of Danjuma's football in the past, and you're only basing it on the fact that we brought him in on loan and we're not using him, Danjuma is a risk taker. And at that time in the game, risks are not what we needed. We just needed somebody that can go out there and follow simple instructions. Unfortunately for Lucas Moura, he just got over eager. He was probably on the pitch frustrated at his lack of minutes and the injury that he's had this season, was over eager and just flew into the tackle, trying to put some effort in. We know Lucas Moura, he wears his heart on his sleeve. There's no way he was going into that to be reckless. He genuinely thought he was going to get to the ball, mistimed it, and yes, it was a red card. So on the day, it's let us down because we should have been able to see it out. But even then, if we look at like stats and stuff, we were all over the place. They still had, when they went down to 10 men, there was a period where they had like 80-something% possession, which is ridiculous. I mean, over the whole game, if you look at possession, we actually had 60.6% to their 39.4%. So it makes us look better than what we were. But once they went down to 10 men, they were very much the team on top, because we naturally just sat back and absorbed the pressure, which is ridiculous when you consider that you're at their stadium, they're fighting against relegation. The best solution in that scenario was to go at them. We just needed to keep peppering them, but we allowed them to have the ball. We sat deeper and deeper. We didn't stretch them. We allowed them to have 15 shots, 6 of which were on target, 5 off, to our 8 shots with only 2 on target. It just goes to show we had to have a penalty to score in this game, which was executed really well. Romero, Michael Keane should have been more aware of his surroundings, but Romero just snuck in there in front of him at the last minute. It was very clever play from him. Passing, at times it annoyed me because I thought we were really woeful, but actually we got 84.2% of our passes right to their 79.5%. But however, I would say our passes, when we needed them to be right, they were not. They were off target towards the end of the game when we needed to just keep possession. We had an extra man on the pitch before Lucas Moura obviously got sent off. And in that moment, you just need to pass around them. Stupidly, we were trying to do it at the back. And I'm not even talking about like a little bit at the back, right at the back, using Hugo Lloris as well. Somebody that is notorious for not having great passing ability. And we're just faffing about between the defence into Hugo Lloris, whilst Everton players are in our box. I just don't understand it, why we're trying to play it from the back. So, look, I'm kind of defending Stellini a little bit on the substitutions he's made. As for the way we set up, I think naively, there are a lot of Spurs fans out there that just assume because Conte's gone, everything was going to change. But the one thing, I'm not defending this display because I thought the players on the night had no heart, no desire. They were dreadful. They didn't fight for the badge. And after Conte had come out and criticised them for not being able to play under pressure, you would have thought they would have been doing everything they could to prove that man wrong. And they didn't. Conte was completely right. Most of them out there have no idea how to play under pressure. right? But let's talk about tactically. The reason why we set up the way we did is because we've just had an international break, right? The players have all gone off. Straight after the Southampton game, players have gone off on international duty. And if you look at our squad, we have so many international players within that squad. Loads of them. So they were all off, and then the players that stayed at home from the first team, the majority of them were injured. And you've got to remember, we've also got players in our first team squad that play for under 21s teams as well, that internationally. So there was a lot of them off as well. So Stellini had barely any players whatsoever to work with. Some of them came back Tuesday. The majority of them came back Wednesday. We're playing on Monday. They are not going to be able to work on a brand new formation, a brand new setup, especially when you're going into a game at Goodison Park, a team set up by Sean Dyche, and traditionally his teams defensively are very solid. Goodison Park is an intimidating place to go at times. I know they haven't been at their best this season, but however, they're scrapping for points to stay in the Premier League. They have some decent players. They were just, they've made some bad managerial choices. They haven't pumped a lot of investment into it. A lot of players are getting very tired. There hasn't been enough proper rotation. They're under a manager that demands them to work hard for 90 minutes. And even when they were down to 10 men, they were still trying to press us hard, right into our own box. That is a Sean Dyche team. Hard work. Not necessarily the prettiest of football. I mean, at times, they were the much better side. In the second half, they were better than us, and that was with 10 men. But in terms of Stellini tactically, in the short time he's had with the players coming back from international duty, some of them are going to be tired, some of them have travelled great distances. He was not going to have enough time to change things, and it makes more sense when you're going to a side like Everton to keep things simple, play with the system they know, but expect the players to pull something out of the bag. You expect that little bounce because Conte's gone and maybe they feel they're under less pressure in that sense. You'd have thought they would have been fighting against the fact that they'd been heavily criticised by Antonio Conte, but they just didn't show it. I mean, you can't blame Stellini and the management team for this one, Ryan Mason and the rest of them. The players have to hold their hands up to is there wasn't a lot the management could do after an international break. They just did not have the time to work with players. But I thought in-game management, he tried to do the things that were right. And unfortunately, Lucas Moura had let him down with the red card. He looked distraught as he was walking off. He knew exactly that he'd let his team down in that moment. But still, even the goal that Michael Keane scored, belter of a goal, he should not have been allowed the space. And I think there's this complacency when centre-backs are moving with the ball. People kind of back off them because they expect that they're going to pass it. But Michael Keane was just invited, and then Davinson Sanchez kind of tried to close the angle a little too late. Keane's mind was made up to strike it. He hit it so well. It swerved towards the end. Hugo Lloris completely rooted. It was just a shambles all over. That goal, he should have been closed down from where he was. There was enough players outside the box to have done something about that. And it had to be the man that had given away the penalty. But yeah, absolutely terrible. And just to put it into context, right? Saves. Hugo Lloris made 5 saves. Do you want to know how many Jordan Pickford made? 0. Obviously, Harry Kane scored the penalty, so he didn't save that. But of the 8 shots that we had, only 2 were on target. 5 of them were off target, and 1 was blocked. So from all those shots, Jordan Pickford didn't have to make any saves. Absolute joke. Discipline-wise, we picked up 3 yellow cards on the night. They didn't pick up any. They just got the straight red. And obviously we picked up a red card. Romero, shock horror. No surprise that he comes away with a yellow card again. Still the part of his game that he needs to work on. But I actually thought on the night he was probably our best player. So let's talk about the press conference, because that's kind of going on at the moment. So we're getting like live feeds come through on that. So Stellini on Kane's reaction. I think that's about the what happened in the build up to the red card. Stellini said the fans are normal, they are unhappy, but in my opinion it was a clear red card. It happens sometimes, you have to realise the situation. And look, you know, there was a lot of players tussling with Kane at the time. He had a little push out at Doucouré, but Doucouré is an absolute idiot. The second you put your hands in somebody's face, you're asking for a red card. It was a clear red card. He knows exactly what he's doing. He puts his hand in the face and pushes. And it was just the two of them there at the time, so there was no way of saying it was an accident. Stellini talking on Danjuma, he said, Danjuma is one player. We obviously have 3 important players up front, and today we used Lucas, and then we had 10 players, so we couldn't change. Danjuma is a good player. His effort is fine. He just needs to wait for his time. Then talking about the red cards, he said, both red cards, they are red cards. The tackle of Lucas was dangerous, and the hand was clearly on the face of Harry. I was right next to it, the Lucas one, and he said I was disappointed. Sometimes this type of tackle, you don't want to be dangerous. A little bit more from him. He said it's not easy to speak with the players, but it's about their feeling on the pitch. We knew very well the strongest skill of this team. 11 players, you have to control the game with the ball. When you have a team like this in their stadium, it's never easy. We were struggling to find the right way to speak to the players and keep them calm. You have to be calm and lucid. So there you go. That's saying that they were trying to talk to the players and they weren't finding it easy. That's a direct comment saying that the players pretty much weren't listening to what was being said. He said, we didn't lead the game with the ball after the red card. We had the chance to control the game better than we did. You have to move the ball side to side. Sometimes we rushed. We were frantic. We need to improve in this aspect. It's a long process and we don't improve in one night. And it's true. We don't improve in one night. It is a process. Look, the players have been playing a certain way for a long time. It obviously did as well last season, hasn't done us well this season. The injuries haven't helped. The fact that we didn't make any centre-back changes at all in any of the windows probably hasn't helped us, because it's left us with a lack of strength in depth when it comes into proper Premier League quality. I don't think there's been enough rotation with the centre-backs throughout the season, which is why Tanganga can't be used, and why both of them, whenever they have been used, have looked very, very shaky, because there's been no game time. So let's talk about the players themselves that were on the pitch. So Hugo Lloris, he kind of did okay. His first real test didn't actually come until he saved Onana's shot from outside the box. He then saved well from Gueye in the second half. Couldn't do anything about Keane's rocket from distance though. Romero, probably our best player on the night. He always looked in control apart from the odd occasion when he went on the hunt for someone to tackle. Which is strange. Sometimes he just gets bored and he runs up the pitch to tackle someone. Brought down in the Everton box for the penalty that Kane netted from. Very good play from him there. Eric Dyer, I actually thought he was quite good in the first half. Put in a decent performance. But presented Everton with the ball early on in the second half after getting caught in possession. And he was very fortunate that Gueye fired his shot over. Longley showed the required fight in the first half. But got muscled off the ball more as the game wore on, and then came off for Sanchez in the second half because of his yellow card, like we said. Pedro Porro, other than an early low cross that was cut out, he spent much of the time defending at the other end and struggling. Had a poor night, I thought. Even Perisic on the other side curled in a couple of dangerous early crosses into the Everton 6-yard box. Lost much of his impact from then on. Was instrumental in the penalty with the header from the back post. Also had a clever header cut back not long before that. But still, not enough from him. The midfield 2, Oliver Skipp. Some sloppy moments on the ball from him, despite working hard. One of his less convincing displays. But he's young, so there's a bit of forgiveness you can give there. And we're definitely lacking on more experienced central defenders. We're left with just Højbjerg, who we move on to now. With us playing it out short from the back. It often came to the Dane, and he rushed his passing on several occasions. He struggled to make much of an impact on the game, and his rush passing looked to be frustrating the coaching staff as well. But maybe that was a bit to do with players' movement. Maybe he was frustrated on the pitch. Now, moving on to the front line. Kulusevski, our main creative threat in the first half, but he's still lacking that quality with the final ball, and he's struggling to reach the really high levels that he set last season when Kane, Son and Kulusevski were on fire. Talk about Harry Kane next. A busy start to the match. A shot cleared off the line by Keane. Then he sent a header wide from a Perisic cross. He was unable to make his mark after that, though, until Doucouré struck him in the face and the Everton man was sent off. I do think that there wasn't enough contact there for Kane to go to ground, but I understand why he did, because if he doesn't go to ground, then Doucouré might not have got a red card. I suppose it's the right thing to do. I don't like to see it, but sometimes referees are swayed if the player that's had the incident inflicted on doesn't react in a certain way. I mean, the amount of times when Danny Rose was playing for us and I saw him not go down under tackles that should have been fouls, even if he lost the ball, referees just didn't give him the foul. So, sometimes you have to just take the hit. Not long after his penalty, though, not after he took his penalty, amid the noise of the crowd and the home players trying to put him off, firing it into the bottom left-hand corner. Typical penalty from Kane up against Jordan Pickford, who he would have taken many penalties against. Pickford was trying to put him off, but Kane didn't look at him once. He just kept focused on looking at the ground, looking to the side, and then just picked his moment and went for it. So now Sonny. Let's talk about him. Another tough night for the South Korean. It's difficult to remember anything at all of note that he contributed in this game. He's just gone missing. He's got no confidence whatsoever. I thought he was terrible. He shouldn't start the next game, in my opinion. I think Danjuma should start the next game because he's going to be hungry with not many games to go. And I'm sorry, Sonny has not cut it in the small games, in the big games. It just can't be done. On to the substitutes. Sanchez came on, replaced Longley, as I said, because of the yellow card late in the game, but he couldn't really help preserve the clean sheet. His passing, unfortunately, for him was terrible. The first thing that he did with the ball was a pass into the midfield centrally that was given away, and we're used to seeing him give the ball away now. And then obviously Lucas Moura came on and promptly got sent off with his lunging unnecessary tackle on Keane's ankle. So if we were to do a player rating for Lucas Moura, unfortunately, he'd probably only get a 1 or 2. He might get a bonus point of 2 because he did actually make a couple of nice flicks round the corner, quick one-touch flicks. Flicked a header on as well. But apart from that, poor. I'm surprised we didn't use more substitutions in the game earlier on, if I'm honest. It's always a criticism of mine with any Spurs manager. I just don't know. So where do we go from here? It's a difficult one. It's very difficult to know what to do now. This was our opportunity to go third in the table. The game's in hand. We needed this win to put the pressure on the other teams because, we've got to be the laughing stocks of the Premier League. We completely capitulated against Southampton. This is the chance for the players to come out and fight. Completely fight and show that Conte was wrong. And all they've done is proven him completely right. A bit on what Sean Dyche had said. The way the team is working now, it's something I'm very proud of. We want to play, of course we do, but it starts with hard graft and basic fundamentals, which Spurs don't have, by the way. He said, I thought we were terrific after conceding the penalty. I thought we deserved the point. It's another step in the right direction. The mentality is getting stronger and stronger and puts us in good stead moving forwards. Meh. Stellini said as well, my feeling now is we lost 2 points this evening because with 11 men against them, we have to control the game much better. We tried to do it, but not the way I expected to do it. So another hint that the players are not listening. After our red card, probably the power of the game was for them. It was difficult. They find an amazing goal and they drew the game with 11 versus 10. We have to do much better. So our next 5 matches will see us face 2 home games, but then we've got 3 difficult matches against teams in and around us. So we've got Brighton and Bournemouth, visit North London on the next 2 Saturdays, but then we've got trips away to Newcastle and Liverpool. Both of them are live on Sky Sports, I believe, and they sit either side of the home game with Manchester United. So a tough run there. You know, what's more annoying is the games that we've had recently have been against poor teams like Southampton and Everton. They're both in a relegation scrap, and we ended up coming away with 2 points instead of the 6 that we should have got. Whilst Newcastle, we saw what they did against Manchester United. They're certainly fighting for a stake. Liverpool are having a bit of a weird season, but that's still going to be tough. Brighton, they're still underplaying that they've got European dreams. That's ridiculous. The manager situation is becoming a bit more of a circus as well. Obviously, you would have seen Graham Potter got the sack, which hasn't helped our hunt for Julian Nagelsmann. And Brendan Rodgers got the sack as well. So it's just made it a little bit more difficult. So a bit more research for me to do before I can release the video that I was going to, because I think Nagelsmann might only come to us in the instance that Chelsea don't want him, because there are rumours that they're worried about his age. Graham Potter has obviously now become an interesting option. He was offered apparently the Leicester job already and turned it down because he wants some time to reflect. So that tells me that he's just going to take a job in the summer. Brendan Rodgers, however, I know he's had a poor time with Leicester. There's been a lot go on at Leicester behind the scenes, by the way. It's not all the situation with Brendan Rodgers. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. You got to remember, he is a proven winner. I believe he won, was it 2 or 3 league titles with Celtic? I think it was 2 league titles with Celtic, 2 cups and 3 league cups whilst he was there. Came close to the Premier League title when he was with Liverpool, just failed to get over the line. Has won the Community Shield and the FA Cup with Leicester. So look, the guy knows how to win a trophy, and with the right backing, and he's a manager that we actually looked at in the past. Back in 2012, we were actually looking at him. Daniel Levy had conversations with him. It never came to fruition. But look, what's happened at Leicester, it doesn't make him a bad coach. I think a lot of what's gone on at Leicester behind the scenes has contributed to where they are right now. Not as much investment as maybe should have gone in. An investment that has gone in has maybe gone in some of the wrong areas. So, you know, that's one to look out for. I'm not saying I'd be overly excited by him coming in, because, you know, you can't deny the fact that he's had a bit of a rough rub of the green recently. So that obviously plays into your mind in terms of results. But he managed at Liverpool. We know he can manage the big egos. So yeah, that's one to keep an eye on. Thomas Frank, it sounds like he's distanced himself from moving at all. And why would he? He's at a good club. They believe in him. They're giving him what he needs. They work in a smart way. He's a good manager. So yeah, it's becoming interesting. I won't talk too much about it now. I'll talk about that another time. But look, points to take away from this game is Stellini's not had enough time to change things around because of the international break. The substitutions he made, if you think about it logically, at the time made sense, but should have made them earlier and should have brought Danjuma on as well. 2 fresh players up top, I think would have perhaps changed the game a little bit. And then also the players not fighting hard enough and working hard for what us fans deserve. So that's it from me tonight, because I'm disappointed and I don't want to talk about Spurs anymore, because it's ruining my evening and it's nearly midnight and I want to go to bed. So thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. And until next time, come on you Spurs.